and he is in Jupiter, and he is a busy man. So, Derrick, first of all, thank you. But second, real quick, if you got to go, you got to cut it short, whatever, you just tell me, no problem. I understand. You're in a beehive of activity, or soon will be. How you doing?
Yeah, you ain't kidding. It's going to, after covering the laborious, pun intended, talks till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. a few times, now you're going to get the feeding frenzy of free agency all night. That's going to be fun.
And there have been reports, and you can confirm it, because again, it's hard for me when I'm on the radio, like trying to keep up with every little, like the play-by-play, if you will. But if as soon as the owners ratify this thing, it's like, and away they go. It'll be like at Hollywood Park, like Aqueduct. Horses just come flying out of the gate, right?
It'll be the running of the bulls in Pamplona, man. Here we go. It's going to be crazy. And you're right. That's when it happens. The lockout will drop when the agreement is ratified by the owners. They're going to speed this thing through. They're not going to take the couple days that they thought. That's because they want to get this spring show on the road. And so when it's approved and the CBA is golden, which will happen here now, any moment now, could happen while we're here on the radio, the transactions will unfreeze, the lockout will lift, and it's off to the races.
Well, let's get this part out of the way, because I don't know that there's a great answer for it, but I want to ask you, because I know our fans and our listeners are going to want me to ask this of you, which is, all right, what do you think the Cardinals are going to do? Like, what would be the thing, realistically? What are they going to do? How quickly do you think they'll move?
I mean, they want a reliever, and they have relievers in their sights. So I would imagine, they're going to – I mean, among the calls they're going to make tonight is to Joe Kelly, or Joe Kelly's rep, and find out where things stand with that. I mean, they had a talk with him before the lockout was happening. There's Ryan Spera out there. There's Robert Selman. There's a host of guys, and they're going to work through their list and see where the guys stand, and if they want to do a deal tonight, and they'll move on that. That has been, entering the lockout, that was their priority, and they advertised that. I'm not sure if anything's changed since then. I guess they're going to have to get some updates on health and everything like that, but they haven't been able to talk to players. I have, and the reports on the health that they expect are all good. Some of the guys who had questions coming out, Ryan Helsley, Miles Miklasz, these guys have really been encouraged by how they're, Jordan Hicks, for example. So, I think as they make their cursory phone calls here to check on guys and kind of get updates on them and see where they're at, they're still going to have the same shopping list. And that is, atop it is finding a reliever who, might challenge for the closer job. Might not, but definitely will be a high-leverage guy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And what about the position, pitching position of kind of like a hybrid pitcher? We've talked about that a little bit, but we're all resetting. A guy that can Jake Woodford is sort of like that, but a guy in addition to Jake Woodford who can start when you need it, but also work out of the bullpen. Do you think that they'll be on the lookout to maybe scoop up one of those guys?
I think they already have. You're talking about like a Colin McHugh kind of guy.
Yeah.
Be a really good. Would be a really thoughtful, good fit. But I'm not sure the opportunity is here is what he wants. Again, that we'll see. Opportunities have shifted now as you have a race for 72 hours, right? That's one of the things is there are a couple relievers that I think, wow, man, if given time, they wait for an injury, maybe they could get a major league deal. But now I wonder, could you get an Archie Bradley on a minor league deal just to get him in? How appealing would that be? But to your question, Cardinals already feel that they have a couple of those guys in place, including one who is here in minor league camp, and that's Aaron Brooks, who they signed to a two-way deal out of the KBO. And he's one of these guys, lots of ground balls, throws strikes. He is straight out of the playbook from what they have been trying to acquire. Pitched to batters yesterday. Rick Hummel has a really good story coming about him tomorrow. And good timing because he's going to be moving clubhouses here in a couple days. He's on a minor league deal so that he could get here, not be on the roster, but he's got a chance to win that role. Woodford does. And then, of course, the Cardinals would really like for Alex Reyes to be that guy. They would really like for Alex Reyes to be that guy.
And that makes sense, too. So I like all this. And in fact, I remember, now that you mentioned Brooks, I remember reading your story right when they signed him or shortly thereafter. And you cited his ground ball rate in the KBO, and I just laughed out loud. I mean, it's just
it's bonkers.
I know. Yeah, I think he's a fit for what the Cardinals like to do. All right, another question. Again, this is
and he
more
pitched
of a
really well. I mean, it's live BP, but we're watching guys yesterday, and I mean, he had the look. I'll be honest. I mean, you can see like young guys pitch, and you're like, okay, he's got to figure this out. But he had the look of a guy who won't have any problem throwing strikes in the majors.
And I, by the way, before I get too far down the road, I just wanted to express appreciation to the Post-Dispatch STL today for sending you down there, and then the commish down there, and I'm sure others are on the way. One of the Bens will be.
Speak.
There you go. Right, I know how it goes, and you did exceptional work, not just with your writing and finding stories, but with your video work. I think you have a future in that field as well. Is really well done.
I think I'm going to go into cartooning.
So, but seriously, I want to. I just on behalf of a lot of people who follow Cardinals baseball, I just wanted to thank you and commend the Post-Dispatch for always being committed, and that includes Jim Thomas on hockey. Traveling to every game, not missing one on the road, even through the worst times of the pandemic. So. My former employer deserves a lot of credit for the commitment that they make to the sports fans in St. Louis. So I just wanted to say that because sometimes I forget to do the nice thing by mentioning that, which is totally legitimate to mention. All right, now we're sort of in the reset mode. Another reset type question is, will they look for a position player that could also factor into the DH picture? And I know they feel they have a lot of DH at bats to spread around within. But in terms of an outside presence, what would you think? What do you think the outlook is?
It depends if some gift falls from the heavens of the unsigned. The talk here has been limited to how does Nootbaar look as an option at DH from the left side? Where does Yepez fit as an option from the right side of the DH? There's not been a whole lot of question about, all right, do they need to go outside and get one of those thumbs because of the commitment to a game changer like Kyle Schwarber, right?
Right.
The Cardinals really want to get into a spot where they're not when they're not putting their lineup in cement in a way that Paul Goldschmidt can't get a day off from first base and still be DH. This is a team that, you're going to hear it a lot, and whether you agree with it or not, we can discuss that, but this is a team that you're going to hear them talk about their defense a lot, and for probably good reason. It should be the best defense in baseball, and they're going to keep that integrity, and they're not going to want to add a guy who is suddenly, a real deficit if they move him in to that spot. So they're trying to keep that in mind as well. How can you buy time for Nolan Arenado so he maybe plays, 150 games at third, and then 5 at DH, and you don't have that riveted DH guy in there too, so that you can play more of a matchup game. And they think that Nootbaar could be a part of that. Yepez could be a part of that. Now everything changes if all of a sudden a left-handed bat, and that's what they would look for. If a left-handed bat, or maybe a guy who's a right-handed bat, but if something happens where they go for a 1-year deal and they can't pass that up, Mozeliak will look for that. But I'm not sure who that would be.
Right.
Is Nelson Cruz going to go for a 1-year deal? I'm not sure. It's just hard to know at this moment with him. But you do have 14 other NL teams now to create a market. And you kind of think, well, there's going to be multi-year deals for some of these guys, and Cardinals don't want to be there with that at the moment.
Derrick Goold with us from the Post-Dispatch STL today. And, again, please follow him on Twitter at @DGould, and make sure you check out you can go and see the archive, but make sure you follow to check out whenever they drop a best podcast in baseball at STL today, and it's available, I assume, in all the other places where you find podcasts. I wanted to get your opinion on something. Going back to the CBA, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was surprised. When the reports came out that the players that were on whatever that committee's called, the 8 players, Max Scherzer and company.
Committee.
Yeah, there you go. I was surprised that the vote was 8-0 against, and the rank and file, so to speak. It was 24-6. The player reps. Cardinals apparently were one of the dissenting votes, but
they were.
I don't know. I mean, I saw that posted on social media, which is always.
No, the Cardinals were. The Cardinals reps voted against it.
Yeah. Okay. I just you threw me a curveball there. I didn't know what to make of that remark. He said.
Oh no, they did. I mean, I'm just confirming that report. I guess I don't know.
Okay. But what does that say about the leadership? In effect, was against it unanimously, but their fellow players had a different view. I mean, what's the takeaway there?
Boy, how much time do you have?
As much as you need, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to sort it out on many different levels, and I've asked around as to what it says. I mean, what it says about kind of the reporting, right? Like because I've seen that number thrown out there, but not given context for what it means. Like, did they then sway the other people to that vote? Did the executive board try to sway? Did they lobby? One thing to keep in mind that I don't think was explained, and again, I don't know who you've read or what, but the reps do go back to their teammates to say, hey, what do you think? And, if they take a vote of a 40-man roster and they get votes from who they can get in touch with, they do represent that vote as well. So, it's hard to know the breakdown of what it was that led to certain teams. I think it's interesting that, you talk about some of the teams that voted against it. They're not exactly the most popular teams with fans. So it also feeds into that perception. I mean, look how many teams, I think the Astros and the Yankees were 2 of the teams that voted against it, and the Cardinals. Oh, swell. Okay. Well, that's also the ones that all the fan bases don't exactly line up with. Well, that's a nice way for somebody to dunk on teams if they want to. For example, MLB baseball, right? Or MLB. I doubled up the baseball there. So I keep that in mind because I was like, oh, well, that's a fascinating number, but that's not news you can use. That's just a cute tweet. Give me more information. What does it mean? Right. And so in the attempt to find that out, some things stand out. I mean, you have very strong voices with the Cardinals and Paul Goldschmidt and Jack Flaherty, right? They're guys who stay plugged in. They stay aware of this. And, if there was some element of this agreement that they did not like, they would not have had a problem speaking up with it privately. So there's that factor. 2, there was that $500 million lawsuit tagging along this thing, right? That is related to the 2020 grievance about the unilateral imposition of a shortened season and thus shortened salaries. So now that's been forgiven. There are still other grievances out there. But what one thing bothered players most and what, led the executive board to go, whoa, is not entirely clear. They did think that they could get some bigger gains on the luxury tax and narrow that down. But it's still pretty close. They did want some more, so they wanted to get rid of that qualifying offer. All of a sudden that was attached to the international draft. So you can see how the executive board, which has been sort of in the minutia now for months and in the, the meat grinder of figuring this out now for 14 days, how they would be like, we just, we have to vote against what MLB is trying to get in at the last minute. And, this constant shifting of a deadline, to their benefit and not to our benefit has to be addressed. And you could see how that would frustrate them. again, those are some things that have been brought up. There's concern about the power the commissioner now has to change rules. And in effect, the executive board and the union executives are voted in or paid to find the unintended consequences of rushing to approve the CBA. So I would consider that as part of the reason why they may not have been so quick to vote for this.
I appreciate the thoughtful answer. I really do. Derrick Goold with us from STL Today in the Post-Dispatch. And if you got to go, just let me know.
Can I add one quick thing?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, of course.
Because I've been asked this by fans. They're like, why would the Cardinals be against it? And let's be clear that these are the players. And while the players do their votes by team, that's an organization factor. These players aren't going, well, what would be best for the future of the Cardinals? They're voting on what they think is best for the future of the union. The Cardinals owner, Bill DeWitt, is the one representing what is best for the future of the organization. And, he has been pretty steadfast. He hasn't commented much, obviously. But going into this and through it, while he's talked about being interested in a 154-game schedule, he's been pretty consistent saying that the goal is to play the games. And as influential as he is, he's wanted a full season. He wants the most games. And you saw a movement in ownership in the past, 48 hours to do whatever was possible to get a full season. It would not be surprising to me if the group of owners who's been in that group before that wants a full season made some headway with the other owners that saw a benefit of maybe not having games in April and saving the cost.
Derrick, in your opinion, and certainly not limiting you to one thing, but from the players' perspective, as this thing got winnowed down, they seem to have made some really good gains in some areas. What do you I hate to frame it as like winners and losers. I don't mean it in that context, that airhead kind of context. But what do you think the players' biggest quote win or wins were in this?
I think the most significant that we'll see is raising the minimum salary by about 23%. The fact that it's gone up from what it was $560, $570 last year, now it's at $700 and it's going to rise. There's a built-in escalator to it as opposed to being responsive so that it slipped back not too long ago. So that is significant. And coupled with that, there are two other elements. I think the result, I'll explain. So two other elements. One, the service time, the full year award of service time, bonuses in play, and then that bonus pool for players who have yet to reach arbitration. That did not exist before the union proposed it, and they proposed it at $115 million, I believe. Now it's set at $50 million, which is 10 times what the owners offered when they said that's a really good idea. Let's embrace that. So that bonus pool did not exist before the union proposed it in this CBA. That's an idea that got interest from both sides to raise salaries for younger players and is now in play at $50 million. What those two things can do in concert, raising the minimum, or three things, I guess, raising the minimum, the service time manipulation factors, and the bonus pool, how that will have this trickle-up effect is it raises the salary in which players now enter arbitration. And for several years now, arbitration has been the last bastion of assuring a raise, right? Like players who are in that 3 to 6 for service time, they go into arbitration, they're assured a raise. You can't say that for all free agents. Once they hit, some of those guys vanish and they have to take pay cuts, right? We've seen that.
Yep.
So arbitration was the process to assure a raise. And now those players are entering that process at a higher salary level. I think that could have a fascinating impact on how salaries grow for the most talented players. I also think, and this is where it gets way in depth, but I think the penumbra, the shadow of that fact will increase the appeal of those 30 to 35-year-olds who have been frozen out of free agency. Because all of a sudden now, younger players are going to cost more. And the teams that have used this, churning through pitchers and young pitchers and minimum salary pitchers and everything like that to, get an aggregate production instead of paying for the full production of a free agent, now all of a sudden that cost is higher of young players. And maybe that free agent looks a little bit more appealing.
Good. I mean, again, another excellent explanation. So I appreciate that very, very much. Well, you're going to be a busy man. You always are. But I mean, I would set the over/under maybe at. I don't know how many cups of coffee you drink per day now, so it's hard for me to adjust the over/under as we shift into this huge chariot race that's about to start. But I'd probably, wherever you are now in daily coffee consumption as far as cups, I would probably adjust the line, the betting line. Probably adjust that by 1.5. I could even adjust it to 2, but I'm trying to put that hook in there for smart investors. What do you think about 1.5 more? Is it 2?
You know what?
2.5?
I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I might be shifting a little bit to the iced tea here.
Oh, okay, good.
Maybe we can do that a little bit. Maybe switch it up a little bit. Do a little green tea caffeination. Isn't that better for my health? Maybe.
Yeah, it is. There you go.
Yeah. So
you're going to inspire me. Are you? Does Team Post-Dispatch have the condo with the Richard Nixon painting in it?
No, alas, we do not. We have not had that for a while. We have. We do have a place with a neon Hakuna Matata sign. So that's been very reassuring as I come home, from all this. Did I just say come home? God, I've been down here too long.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Right. That has been reassuring as I walk in the door of our rented place and I see, hey, no worries. Awesome. So,
well, who's you're going to have the columnist cavalry coming down too. Which Ben is first up?
Hochman is on deck. Benjamin Hochman is on deck.
Right.
Our new minor league beat writer, Daniel Guerrera, is, let's see, he's up next. And then you have cleanup hitter Fredrickson coming to town.
That's another thing. Kudos to the Post-Dispatch for hiring someone to cover the Cardinals minor league series. That's really good. That's at a time where it's usually going the other way with all newspapers. To actually bring someone in, create a new position. That's outstanding. So
yeah, we have more things ahead to.
Good.
And now that we know that the major league season is starting, we'll have some announcements soon. We've made 2 new hires, so.
Great.
We're going to be expanding the baseball coverage quite a bit. So more green tea.
I look forward to hearing about everything. Well, thanks for your time, man. It was very cool to be able to spend 24, 25 minutes with you because I know it's a crazy day. Look forward to reading all your stuff. Thank you so much.
Happy to talk about it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, buddy. That's our friend Derrick Goold. And we caught him at a good time. I'm surprised in a way because but then again, the owner's conference call was pushed back to ratify the agreement. And, I think the players got some things. And just to do my own little short review, like if you say, okay, where did they make their gains? That pre-arbitration bonus pool, definitely for sure. The minimum salaries, definitely for sure. They were able to take they were able to get to raise that competitive balance tax threshold more than they had. I think maybe more than they thought they would get out of that. It's still not where they wanted to be. And then the draft lottery, they got their way on that when it's 6 picks. So this will prevent teams really tanking, knowing, all right, we're going to get the first pick in the draft. Well, not so fast. Not necessarily. The universal DH, what the players wanted. The amateur draft is going to be 20 rounds. Players can be optioned 5 times per year. and that's it, which I think is really good. I think it's really fair, and it means that front offices are going to have to manage their personnel correctly because they can't. I call it the John Brebbia rule. They're not going to be able to send one or two relievers up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Where it's like these guys wake up, they don't even know whether they're actually in Memphis or St. Louis. So, but those are a few of the things, and it's pretty positive. And we'll see the owners do their thing and make the deal official, which they will. And man, it is going to be. I'm not even about to get to sleep tonight. I'm going to be an idiot, but a fun idiot, because there's nothing wrong with what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be monitoring the Twitter and everything else just to see, because some of these moves will start coming in tonight. And it's just going to be fun to watch the things that we've missed out on for a good part of the offseason. There was that original feeding frenzy before the lockout where all the big boys got their money. Cardinals signed Steven Matz, 4 years, I think $44 million. But then everything stopped, and that's a long time ago. So this part will be a lot of fun. Because I don't know if I'd call it the hot stove league. I wouldn't call it the microwave league, although things are going to be cooking a lot faster. It's going to be fun. It's just going to be fun to see all this activity. So, yeah, Jim?
I'm just trying to see tonight how my phone, I'll be having my phone with me. I'll have the Blues on. Might even check on a few college basketball games, but it'll be fun when you start seeing, so-and-so just signs here. This pitcher goes there. The DH, where's Kyle Schwarber signed maybe tonight. It'll be, that's going to be like a Christmas morning in a way for a baseball fan tonight, just to see what starts breaking.